Sexy Mom Abundant Life. iom.fm is the radio station, so iom.fm, and every Thursday, 5 Eastern. Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. Thank you for being here. I am your host, Kathy Williams, and have been on the radio for about 3 years now. And this is the 4th episode of Sexy Mom Abundant Life. So I'm delighted to be playing both alone and with others, with special guests and people with conversations to really help expand our life, our living, our reality, our abundance. You know, I think a lot of times as mothers, we start to narrow our focus. Of course, we have more jobs. We have the job of being not only a caretaker, caregiver, but also a nurse, a coach, a mentor, all of these things, a chauffeur, all these different roles. And I'm here to say you can have it all. And that doesn't mean you can achieve everything, but every quality of life you'd like to have, the joy, the possibilities, the expansion, the security, all of that is available. And if you're not feeling it, you're in the right place, because the conversations we have, and you're welcome to call in, are to help you tap into that, because the universe really does have your back in that. And part of it is a matter of focus, and part of it is recognizing that it's available and tapping into the fact that the universe does have our back, and shifting out of old habits and patterns and beliefs, because I know a lot of us weren't given the message that you can have what you desire, or receiving is important as well as giving, and these types of messages that really, when we take the time to nourish us, this on some level, then everyone else benefits as well. When we take the time to form new habits, we not only inspire ourselves and light ourselves up, but that has a ripple effect out. So, and for me, that wasn't always, I didn't always do these things. As a mother, as a parent, I cut myself off from what I truly desired, until one day I took a look and I was like, hey, wait. What if there is a way for me to get what I want and have my kids taken care of, maybe in greater ways than they're already being taken care of? And so I made some life shifts. Anyway, before we dive into today's topic, I'll just tell you a little bit about me. I live on the island of Maui. I have 2 sons, and I'm an abundance coach, the creator of Radical Abundance, a program that helps people realize that the universe has their back and tap into that. And you can find out more about that at meetkathywilliams.com. I'm also a published author. I created the book Relationships Done Easy. You can find that on Amazon. And I travel the world facilitating workshops, facilitating access consciousness classes, and that's a body of work just to help people be more empowered, to help you know that you know. And it's been such a gift to be able to travel around facilitating those. And honestly, if you had asked me 5 years ago, oh, can you be a mom and travel the world and take your kids all over and work simultaneously, I would have said, I don't really think so. But that's what I created. So anything is possible. Today's topic is the magic of early morning time, waking up early, establishing your day in a really quiet, peaceful way. And you know, all sorts of people, from the ancient yogis to Benjamin Franklin, of whom I was a real fan when I was like a preteen, of his ingenuity and his ideas and his creativity and his inventions and all of that, to modern day CEOs and billionaires are talking about the power of waking up early. And so I had heard about this a fair amount, right? I've studied yoga for a long, long time. I've been a yoga instructor for, wow, since the year 2000, so quite a while. And you know, known about the idea of waking up early. And it wasn't until this past year that I really implemented it on a consistent basis. And guess what? It changed my entire life, and I'll tell you how in a moment. And before I do, I'd like to just talk about, you know, some of the reasons waking up early can be so useful. And it's like, I know, bed is a comfy place to be, and it's not always that easy to create a new habit or a new routine. However, when you wake up before most people, there's a sense of quiet in the world. There's a sense of spaciousness. It's almost like the airwaves, you know, radio waves. The airwaves are turned down so you have space for you instead of all the thoughts that are usually rippling through the air. So and having time during which you're undisturbed, like no one's pulling at you for your attention. No one's calling or texting or demanding anything of you. This uninterrupted time is a space for your creativity to come out, for your brainwaves to actually change into a more creative state. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as the show goes on. So I had heard about this, and the person who brought it back to the forefront of my mind is Robin Sharma, who recently wrote a book called The 5 a.m. Club, and it's about, you know, the magic of waking up at 5 a.m. and he's taught billionaire CEOs, billionaires and CEOs this for years and years. He's a coach to that type of people, and when you start with this uninterrupted time, you're functioning out of creation and activity instead of reactivity, right? When we're texted and we respond, when we're emailed or pulled at by our kid, we're sometimes reacting. We're reacting to what's showing up. And this uninterrupted time gives us a space for that creative mind to come out and for us to really unearth what's inside and what would like to come out and how we would like to shape our lives. Because honestly, a lot of people, and I'm not saying that's you, totally itchy nose right now. I'm not saying this is you, but many, many people give more presence and awareness to the way they're going to create their vacation than the way they're going to design or shape their life. And it's like, wow, like, yes, a vacation's important, and your life is much more important than that. So this early morning space is amazing for helping to shape that. So I'll talk about that. And before we do, let's go into how it's changed me. And for me, it's allowed me, again, like I just mentioned, to approach life in a more settled way, right? I'm not getting up and rushing off to make a lunch or make sure everyone's on time to and get everyone else up. I'm in a spacious, non sort of aroused nervous system space. The other thing that it's done is allowed me to really meditate more, right? Meditate and journal, and that changes brainwave states and allows the rest of your life to unfold in a more relaxed way. So not just the morning, the benefits go beyond that. Then the other really, really interesting thing that's changed is because I'm not staying up late, right? If I am, I'm super tired. And I'm not staying up late. I'm not actually eating at night. And I lost like 5 pounds without even trying because like that's not occurring. So go figure. So I'm gonna, through the course of this time together, give you some of the different practices that are suggested during during the early morning, and you can kind of pick and choose. I don't do all these things. There are many books written on the subject now, from the 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma to a book called, what was the name of it? By Hal Elrod, and his book is called The Morning Miracle or something like that. And so each of those gives some suggestions. And then, of course, Benjamin Franklin had some questions and things he looked at, and the yogis did as well. So we can talk about that. We can also talk about the timing from an Ayurvedic perspective and from a Chinese medicine perspective of early morning hours. So one of the ways to start to shift your habit to getting up early is to put your alarm clock way across the room, because if it's right next to us, what do? Just reach over and click that thing off. Yet when it's across the room and it's buzzing, it's kind of hard to click it off. You gotta get up, and if it's cold, get cold. So that's an easy way to get you out of bed. And then the other thing is you can start to just shift your clock back 10 or 15 minutes and do that for a week and be with that for a week and allow yourself to get adjusted to that. And then after a week, shift it back another 10 or 15 minutes. And you could be there for a week or two. And then shift it back another 15 minutes. So it's a gradual thing versus a huge plunge. At this point, my body just wakes up. It doesn't require an alarm to get up at 4:30 or 5. And I'm not suggesting you get up at 5, but it's a totally, 4:30, but it's a total possibility. So the period from about 4 or even 3:30 a.m. to 5:30 or 6, and why that span? Because it's till about sunrise, is called the Brahma Muhurta time. Okay, so this is the Indian phrase for the time of the creator, which I find really interesting, because if you tap into the energy of that, right, the energy of the time of the creator, and step into that like, oh wow, here I am. At that time, I'm creating my life. And there's this theory I mean, not that we're not creating our life all the time, but it's setting the stage for our day. What would I like to create? If today were like as great as it could be, what would be the energy of that? What would that be like? So, Ed will explore some questions to ask and things you can do. At that time, what's happening is there's a natural production of melatonin, and pineal gland is secreting at its maximum during the Brahma Muhurta time, which has a very stabilizing effect on mood. We could say kind of peace creating, right? And Robin Sharma talks about the pharmacopoeia of chemicals that's produced by your brain when you get up and do certain activities like exercise during the early morning, write and get creative, and we'll go into the effect on the brain a little bit more, and learn something during the early morning hours. So he considers it the 20-20-20 principle, where you spend 20 minutes exercising, 20 minutes writing, journaling, allowing yourself to play with ideas for your day, maybe some meditative action, and then 20 minutes to learn something. Now, if you're like me, while you're exercising, you're likely like, yeah, I'm going to turn on a podcast like this one, or turn on an audiobook and learn something simultaneously to exercising. So I'll talk about my daily routine, which is a little bit different from Robin's, but that's kind of the idea. Getting yourself moving, getting your creative juices flowing, and learning something. Because listen, if you learn something for 20 minutes a day, every day you're growing that much. And by the end of a week, you've spent over 2 hours learning and growing and expanding, and your knowledge base, what you know. So that's the idea behind the 5 a.m. club, those 3 activities. And so I know we're going to go to break here in a moment. When we get back, I'll talk about the effects on the brain, because they're numerous, and the effects on aging and health and vitality, and some other strategies to do during your morning hour. So thanks for listening to Sexy Mom, Abundant Life, everybody. I'm really grateful you're here, and you can call in to iom.fm if you like. Just visit the website and you can call me, and we'll talk about the early morning time. So we're on a little break for a second, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes. Please write your questions in. I would love to know your questions. Be back in a minute. Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with me, Kathy Williams. And I love to hear from you. I really love hearing your ideas for shows and topics for classes because, I want it to be relevant, like if it's relevant to you, if we can help you in different areas of your life, then, all the better. That's what this show is about. So one thing that has really helped me is what we're talking about today, which is getting up early. And I never was that person. It wasn't that I always stayed up late, although I can get pulled into projects or watching something and stay up late with the best of them. But I definitely wasn't a person who's like, oh yes, I want to wake up at 5 a.m. and that's natural to me. No, it took a little setting of the alarm. It took a little adjustment. So I mentioned earlier putting the alarm way across the room. Now, when I started doing this practice of waking up early, I didn't do that. I didn't have that idea, okay? But what I did was my phone was next to my bed, or maybe it was plugged in across the room. But what I do is when I would wake up, I'd just flip on a meditation, a guided meditation. And so it became a way of shifting from this kind of dull and sleepy inner world to the inner world of clarity, right? Clarity, theta brainwave state, relaxation, spaciousness, but now awake. And then eventually shift into a more outer way of being. So that's the way I transitioned into waking up at 6 a.m. or so to waking up more at 5 or even 4:30. And now my body, as I mentioned earlier, just does it. It just wakes me up. So one of the really interesting things that the yogis would talk about is this idea that you can change patterns in the early morning hour. And so they had this idea that, like, if something's really deeply ingrained, if you'll meditate in the early morning, the closer you are to like 1 a.m. or 2, the earlier in time and the deeper the pattern could be unleashed, what do you call it? Like rooted out. So it's such a fascinating idea, isn't it? Okay, if I meditate in this early morning, it's more likely to uproot deeply held patterns. Now, I don't know if that's true, right? But that's what is spoken about in some of the yogic texts. It's like if you want to unroot something that's really deep, that you've held onto for a long, long time, meditate early. So now some of the systems out there, people's morning routines suggest exercise right away. For me, that's not how I function. I'm like, it's still early. I'm not just gonna hop out of bed and go jump on the trampoline or go swing a kettlebell or go do push-ups, right? For me, it's much easier to still go into that inner stillness of meditation and then to do something like exercise. So I'll give you a sense of my morning routine, and then we can talk about some other people's ideas. That way you can really formulate what it is that might nurture you. And of course, that's always malleable and changeable, so you can change it at any time and just explore and experiment. So my morning pretty much consists of waking up at 4:30 or 5. And then what I'll do is I'll go right into meditation. And a lot of times that's a guided thing. I've used Joe Dispenza's. I've actually developed my a meditation based on some yogic practices. I know my husband's texting me during the show as with other morning ideas that he likes. um, so, so I like to meditate, and so I developed this meditation based on some yogic practices that really takes me quickly into theta brainwave state, and I teach that practice in the Radical Abundance course, and people find that it's really life changing, and they can tap into that creative mind, many times a day, more effortlessly. And so what I do is that for a little while, and it just depends. Joe Dispenza's meditations are really long. They're like 47 minutes, 50 minutes. Maybe the shortest one I have is like 43 minutes. They're long. So if I wake up at 4:30, I might do one of those. But mine is a lot quicker and accesses a deep space as well. So it's easy to do, whether it's 4:30 or whether it's 5. And I do that for about 15, 20 minutes or so. And then after that meditative space, I like to write. I like to, I'm kind of in a space where of the creative juices flowing, accessed a clarity, a spaciousness, which is so available during the morning time, because not everybody's out awake, thinking, active, fewer cars on the road, less distraction. So writing during that time helps me to kind of, first off, go through whatever residual stuff is in my head, right? Like sometimes just getting it onto a page helps you digest it and see it and come up with different ideas for tackling life's challenges. So getting it onto the page can be super useful in terms of coming up with different strategies for success. And I don't mean that in a like, you need strategies for success type of motivational speaker thing, but more like, oh, here's a solution for this, or here's a possibility that I hadn't thought of, or oh, if we only did it this way, things would flow smoother. That kind of approach. So it also helps me a lot of times as I'm getting into my meditation. I start to come up with ideas of, oh, I need to call this person, or oh, I should write this email, or oh, come up with different ideas so I can get those right out onto the page right away. And I usually just write them in the upper right hand corner of whatever page I'm working on, so that if I go back to that page, I can see, oh yeah, I need to call Tina. I've forgotten that. Right? So that's my strategy. And I usually leave the right hand margin a little open for different ideas to come out as I'm writing other things. And, one of the things that I talk about a lot, and I do in the morning practice, is write what I'm thankful for, because there have been scientific studies that show your level of serotonin, which is the pleasure chemical in your brain, happiness. That has to do with happiness. Like that's what antidepressants help serotonin levels. So your serotonin levels go up, and people are happier when they start to focus on what they're grateful for. So in the morning, I tend to write about like what I'm thankful for. And it could be super small. It could be like, oh, that was a lovely dinner we had last night. Or it could be big, whatever that is, big is for you. Oh, I was just invited to do another class in London. Yeah, I'm super excited about that, or whatever it is. So you're writing some things, tidbits about what you're grateful for. And even on the worst day, we can find something, right? Well, my eyes opened today. I'm not freezing. Well, my elbows are bending, right? Imagine you couldn't even write very well if they weren't. So finding something to be grateful for and reorienting your mind in that direction, because we have this thing called a negativity bias. You can look it up. That's what psychologists call it. And it's the mind looks for what's off. Right? And that makes sense, because then we can fix it, we can correct it, we can make adjustments. However, when you're looking for a yellow car, you can likely find a yellow car, right? When you're looking, but what you're looking for, you're going to see. So if you look for what you're grateful for, you're going to see more of it, right? So we're reorienting the mind from negativity bias to what we're grateful for. And as we do that, what we're grateful for grows. And we see more and more that the universe has our back, that we're supported, that there's always something we can be thankful for. So that's one of my morning activities. And then I'll give you another one that I actually just kind of came up with because I was recognizing, geez, Kathy, in these areas I have some judgment of myself. And so I started to write a column of these different judgments I had. And I did a YouTube video about this morning with no contacts in, with just like frizzy hair. But I started to write a column of like what judgments I have of myself. And then I was able to look at like, okay, well, what if that weren't so? Like, what's the gift in that judgment? So let's say, oh, I'll create this one. Like, I've been a slug, right? I haven't been creating as much as I can. Okay, well, what if that's not true? And then I can look at, well, I did create this, and I did create this, and I did create this, right? So if I question it, right, immediately my mind goes to, well, what if it weren't true? What else have you created? Right, so we're shining our flashlight in a new direction. Before the flashlight was shining on, oh, you're not creating much. And now it's looking for, oh, well, what have you created? Right, so we're looking at that judgment. Then we can say, what's the gift in this situation? Oh, well, the gift is that I've given myself space to go inward. The gift is I've taken my energy and I've been learning about, for me, it's been stock options, which is so much fun for me. So I'm just taking my energy and going in a different direction. So looking for first, what if it weren't so? Right? Like, what's the evidence against your judgment? And then what's the gift in it? And if you have tools like the Access Consciousness tool of, well, interesting point of view. So you could say, well, I'm lazy, or I'm a slug, or whatever it is. And then interesting point of view, I'm lazy. Interesting point of view, I shouldn't be this way. Interesting point of view. Yeah. Interesting point of view, I'm lazy. Interesting point of view, I should be more active. Whatever it is. So you start to work with that belief to kind of unhook it from you. And so I made a column of all these different judgments I had that, if they're there, they're subtly impacting my actions during the day. They're subtly impacting, what I'm choosing or what I'm not choosing. So it's nice to see them and work with them and change them, right? Because when we're free of those judgments, we can create so much more. So those are a couple of the things that I like to do in the early morning time of journaling. Now, Hal Elrod suggests a couple other things. He wrote the book, I think it's called The Morning Miracle. I can look it up. And so he has his own system, and I'll tell you about that system in just a moment. And one of the things he suggests doing is dividing a piece of paper into two columns. And one is lessons learned, and the other is new commitments. And so you could say, well, I learned not to leave a spoon in the blender and turn on the blender, right? It can be as simple as that. Or it could be like, wow, I learned about waking up at 5 a.m. and the benefits of that and the brain chemistry about that, which we're going to cover in a moment. Whatever you've learned. That way you acknowledge it and reinforce it to yourself. Okay? The other one is new commitments. Okay, I'm going to lose 10 pounds, right? And so my new commitment is to move my body in a way every single day that I like for 20 minutes. Something like that, where it's like, you're making a commitment to yourself to do something different, because most people most people live their life by habit. What do? We wake up, maybe our alarm's on our phone, so the first thing we do in the morning is look at our phone, and then after that, see if anyone emailed and see if anyone texted, and oh, look on Facebook, so and so is now not a vegetarian anymore, or they're eating carbohydrates now. How interesting. It's like things that actually don't matter too much. Instead of, okay, like what do I commit to myself so that I can actually be a greater person tomorrow? Be a greater person today than I was yesterday. And if we take an action each day to become greater than we were yesterday, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Even if it's just the choice to not judge ourselves. Oh, just judged myself. Oh, I don't have to make myself wrong about that. That's being greater than you were yesterday. Okay? So, Hal has a really interesting sort of affirmation. And I mean, not affirmation, affirmations are part of it. He has an interesting set of 6 habits, which we're going to talk about when we come back. And those are another way you could start your morning to create a greater today than yesterday. Thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everybody. I look forward to being with you in just a couple minutes. Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is Kathy Williams, and I have a class that's coming up called 5 Days of Energetic Exercises for Receiving. And we just got it up on the internet today. If it's not there already, it will be at meetkathyWilliams.com/upcoming. And you're welcome to join me to that. I love the energetic exercises. In fact, next week's show, the first week of March, will be on receiving. So you can enjoy an energetic exercise there. And if you like the exercises from the shows, you can actually sign up for my newsletter, and I will send those to you each month. So let's get back to the routine that I started to talk about, which is written about in the book called The Morning Miracle. And it really was a miracle for Hal Elrod, because he died. He died. He was in the hospital. He had been hit by a vehicle, and he died for 6 minutes. And then he came back, and he was told, "You aren't going to walk ever." And he developed this. He was at a pretty low point, right? And he developed this morning routine. And there's more to the story, but that kind of is a little summary here. And he developed this thing called the savers routine, and it's a habit stack, meaning 6 habits. Kind of, I'll do this one first, and then this one, then this one, like that. And his habit stack is silence first. Kind of like mine, right? I love to go into the silence first because I've just been sleeping and kind of too groggy to go do anything else. So the next one on his list is affirmations, right? Affirming to himself, the life he's going to create, the person he wants to be. Now, I kind of do more of that type of thing, or questions of the universe in the shower. It's just easy for me. Like, hey, universe, show me some magic today. Show me the magic of me today. I wonder what capacities I have with money that I've never even known before. Show me. What's that like? So I do a lot of show me universe, because remember, if it's an ask and receive universe, then ask the universe to show you the things you'd like to see and be and receive. So he has silence and then affirmations. So it's SAVERS, right? This whole acronym. S-A-V, visualization. So instead of visualization, which is really powerful, I like to do a morning energy pull. And I actually have people who have written to me, "Kathy, I love your morning energy pull that I got on your website. I listen to it every day." So I think people have listened to it like 14,000 times on YouTube. And if you'd like that, you can head on over to meetkathyWilliams.com. And there's a link right on page 1 to sign up to get that exercise, because it really is relaxing and powerful and generative, and it allows you to tap into how you would like your life to show up with ease. So SAV, then E, exercise. And you probably know the benefits of exercise are numerous. Now, one of the really cool things about early morning exercise before you eat is it gets metabolism going. But it also gets let me talk about the silence and journaling and exercise, kind of a pharmacopoeia in your brain. So what happens is dopamine, right? The chemical that brings a sense of aliveness. I think that's one of the chemicals, the reasons people get addicted to video games is because that dopamine spike. So anyway, this exercise brings that naturally, like the sense of aliveness, and there's a sense of inspiration, and then serotonin, we talked about that pleasure chemical, and oxytocin, which is how mothers bond with their babies, a sense of love. And so these are all emitted through your bloodstream when you're taking that time for distraction-free time, getting out of your logical brain, right? The logical brain is the frontal brain, the prefrontal cortex. You could put your hand on your forehead, that'd be the closest place to access, right? And genius doesn't come from that logical mind. That's more the beta brainwave state. Genius comes from that relaxed mind, the alpha mind, the alpha brainwave state, and theta. And so a combination of meditation or just journaling and being creative and exercise are both super useful for helping you reach that kind of brainwave state with this pharmacopoeia of dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. And so all these good, amazing things are flowing through your blood, right? To start your day. This is all before 6 a.m. So, and of course, like these things can help you reach the flow state, which is, reached by athletes and musicians and probably you at some point in your life already have been in flow, a state of ease and creation. But that is the genius state, which is accessible by all of us, right? Not just a few people, but all of us. It's just a matter of going into the space, which is called transient hypofrontality. That means essentially, in normal terms, your prefrontal cortex, that logical thinking brain, turns off so that you're not trying to figure things out, where you're in the relaxed state of creation. And so, of course, exercise helps with these chemicals going through your blood. It also helps metabolism and keep your body from atrophying and all of these things. So that's the next one. So we have SAVE, save, and then RS. So reading is the R. Reading something, again, the idea is learning something in that early morning time. And then scribing. Scribing is writing. Again, Hal suggests writing lessons learned in one column and new commitments in another column. And also things like I'm grateful for, which we talked about. And the question, what would make today great? Which is an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, what would make today great? Sometimes that is an action we can take. Sometimes it's an energy we can be. Like, what would make today great? If I go into the presentation and nail it. Okay, well, what would make today great? If I go into the presentation with a sense of aliveness and contribution and knowing that I'm going to make a difference to someone, like that you have control over, right? You have the ability to show up in a certain way. All right, you don't have what would make today great? Oh, if everyone responds well to the presentation. Well, we don't have control over that, right? Only over ourselves. So when you're looking at what would make today great, if you find something that's really based on someone else, bring it back to you. Okay, what would make today great? If my kids listen to me and get along. Okay, well, what do I have influence over? I have an influence over being calm with them. I have influence over being kind to them. So what would make today great? If I'm calm and kind with my kids. So bring it back to you instead of let it being about, oh, if 30 clients showed up today, if, okay, what would make today great? Bringing people into my business, whatever it is. All right, and then I have one that I kind of modified again, and that's what's life asking of me today? Which is an interesting question because it's almost like, where is my attention required today? What is the flow of life, the universe if you wish, God if you wish, whatever your term is, what is that inviting me into today? I mean, some days it might be just, oh, finish the taxes. Kind of is for me today. But but what else is life inviting me into today? And then you'll have insights. Oh, well, for me this morning it was reach out to a couple people in London. I'm going to be facilitating there this summer. So, make that contact and those connections. So that's a really fun question to ask in the morning. What's life asking of me today? And then, how am I judging or stopping me? How am I judging or stopping me? And I like to do that just because it is like barfing up whatever is in your brain. Sorry for using that term. But like letting it out so it doesn't have to stay in. So you can take a look at it and be like, do the process we did earlier. Is that really true? What if it weren't so? Interesting point of view. I think that about myself. What's the gift in it? So we have all these different ways of approaching, journaling. And of course, you may have your own methods as well. So Hal's morning habit stack: silence, affirmation, visualization; E, exercise, reading, and scribing, right? Savers is what works for him and what he suggests. And then Robin Sharma has 20-20-20, right? 20 minutes exercise, 20 minutes journal, and take a look at how you want your life to be, your year to be, your future to be, and 20 minutes learning. And my way is a little different, of my meditation and then writing and exercise. And honestly, on the days I do yoga, go to yoga class, I don't bother to make part of my routine, morning routine exercise, right? And then ask myself questions in the shower. So the idea is to start to have time that's undistracted so that you can go into this transient hypofrontality where your logical mind is shut off in a way, and your creativity can come through, and you can really get in touch with you instead of everybody else's needs through the day. And that really sets the stage for a life in which you're active rather than reactive. You have a sense of knowing what's true for you and what direction you're going. Of course, that can always change. Every 10 seconds it can change. But without it always being knocked by what everyone else needs or their direction, and always having your frontal mind on, trying to figure things out. And as I said, I knew that this was useful, and when I started to implement it, life has just become even better. And I'm not perfect at it. I don't wake up super early every day, but 80% of the time I do. And so I'd love to hear how this works for you. You can definitely send me your comments at meetkathywilliams.com. Also, send me your show ideas, because I love to make it relevant and fun, and your ideas can be sometimes more interesting to me than my own. So, and head on over to meetkathywilliams.com as well for that morning exercise, if you'd like to enjoy that, as the 14,000 other people. And then, if you're interested in radical abundance or in a class near you, I have a radical abundance retreat coming up in September in Laguna Beach, where it's dolphin land. So I'm super excited to dive into these practices of abundance and connection and really knowing that the universe has your back near the dolphins. So that retreat is listed on my website as well. Super excited about it. And we have the Radical Abundance online class as well. There's currently a course underway, but head on over to my website and I will put you on the list for learning when the course comes out again, because it's been a life changer for so many. Because abundance is not just money. Abundance is really a sense of knowing that the universe has your back and what you'd like to create, and that you having that and being that is an inspiration for others as well. You're not in a bubble. You're not on an island unless you are. But it's all about we're in this together and we inspire each other to greater heights. So thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. I'll be here next Thursday with something about receiving. That's the topic of next week. So I hope you'll be here as well. And yeah, have a great week. In the meantime, you can always hear us on SoundCloud or YouTube or wherever you like to hear your stuff. In the meantime, also,